Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going deep into mindfulness and meditation. But not just the surface level stuff.
Right.
We're exploring what's actually happening in your brain when you engage in these practices.
Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at a research-heavy systematic review from biomedicines.
Okay.
It focuses on the neurobiological changes from different practices.
Okay.
Especially something called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction.
MBSR.
Or MBSR.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get into all those brain-changing details,
Sure.
let's start with the basics. What exactly is mindfulness?
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But the meaning can be kind of slippery.
It's true.
Yeah.
The term has become very popular.
Yeah.
But at its core, mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Okay.
It's about noticing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise.
Yeah.
Without getting swept away by them.
So it's not about emptying your mind or stopping your thoughts altogether.
Not at all. Okay.
In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging your thoughts and feelings,
Uh-huh.
but not letting them control you.
That makes sense. And I understand mindfulness has roots in ancient Buddhist traditions.
Yes.
But it's become increasingly relevant in modern healthcare.
It has.
Why is that?
Well, because research has shown that mindfulness can have a profound impact on both our mental and physical well-being.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a feel-good practice.
Right.
It actually changes the way our brains work.
Okay, now we're getting to the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Let's talk about MBSR.
Sure.
What makes this particular program so special?
So what's fascinating about MBSR is that it's the most extensively researched mindfulness program out there.
Wow.
It was developed by Jon Kabat-Zinn back in the 1970s.
Okay.
And since then, there have been thousands of studies looking at its effects on everything from stress and anxiety to chronic pain and even immune function. That's impressive. So what does an MBSR program actually involve?
Typically an 8-week program.
Okay.
That includes guided meditations, gentle yoga, and body scan exercises, where you systematically bring your attention to different parts of your body.
Okay.
But the real key is cultivating that non-judgmental accepting attitude we talked about.
Yeah, 8 weeks is a decent commitment.
It is.
But I'm starting to see why it's so well respected in the research world.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really mind-blowing for me.
Okay.
The research suggests that mindfulness can actually change the structure of our brains.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It might sound surprising, but yes.
Wow.
Consistent mindfulness practice can lead to actual structural changes in certain brain regions.
Okay.
Let's take the prefrontal cortex, for example.
Time for a quick anatomy lesson. The prefrontal cortex, that's like the CEO of our brains, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's responsible for all those higher level functions, like planning, decision-making, and emotional regulation. And what's really cool is that studies have shown that mindfulness practice can actually increase the gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex.
So I'm literally building a stronger, more robust CEO in my brain just by meditating.
Yeah.
I like where this is going.
Right.
What other parts of the brain are getting remodeled by mindfulness?
Another key player is the amygdala, which is often referred to as the brain's fear center.
Okay.
Because it plays a big role in our stress response.
Yes, the amygdala.
Yes.
That's the part that triggers our fight or flight response.
Yes.
When we perceive a threat.
Exactly.
So how does mindfulness affect the amygdala?
Well, studies have shown that mindfulness practice can actually reduce the size and activity of the amygdala.
Wait, so mindfulness can actually shrink my fear center?
Yeah, it can.
That's incredible. I'm guessing that translates into less anxiety.
Yes.
And a calmer reaction to stress.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And it's not just about structure. Mindfulness also strengthens the connections between different brain regions.
Okay.
For example, the connection between the prefrontal cortex, our CEO, and the default mode network, or DMN.
DMN, I've heard of it. Isn't that the network that's active when our minds are wandering?
You got it.
Okay.
The DMN is associated with daydreaming, mind wandering, ruminating about the past, and worrying about the future.
Right.
It's that voice in our heads that's constantly chattering.
Oh, yeah. I know that voice all too well. So how does mindfulness affect the DMN?
Mindfulness helps us tame the DMN.
Okay.
It strengthens the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the DMN, allowing the prefrontal cortex to exert more control over those wandering thoughts.
Okay.
As a result, we experience less mind wandering and potentially less anxiety and negativity.
This is fascinating stuff.
It is.
So mindfulness is basically giving my brain a serious upgrade.
Yeah.
both structurally and in terms of how different regions communicate with each other. And I'm guessing it doesn't stop there, right?
No, it doesn't.
What about the chemicals that drive our brain function, the neurotransmitters?
Yes.
Does mindfulness affect those too?
Absolutely. Mindfulness practices can have a significant impact on our neurochemistry.
Wow.
Think of neurotransmitters as chemical messengers that carry signals between neurons in the brain.
Okay.
They play a crucial role in regulating our mood, sleep, focus, and so much more.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right.
Tell me about these neurochemical messengers and how mindfulness fits into the picture.
Let's start with GABA, which you can think of as the chill-out neurotransmitter.
Okay.
It helps to reduce anxiety and promote feelings of calmness and relaxation. Studies have shown that mindfulness practice can increase GABA levels in the brain.
More chill-out chemicals. Sign me up. What other neurotransmitters are affected by mindfulness?
Another important one is serotonin, which is often referred to as the happy hormone, because it plays a key role in regulating mood, sleep, and appetite. Mindfulness has been shown to boost serotonin production, leading to feelings of well-being and contentment.
So more GABA, more serotonin. It sounds like mindfulness is creating a recipe for a happier, calmer brain.
It is. Are there any other neurochemical players we should know about?
There are a couple more I want to highlight.
Okay.
One is BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Okay.
It's basically like fertilizer for your brain, promoting the growth and survival of brain cells.
Okay.
Mindfulness practice has been shown to increase BDNF levels, which can lead to improved learning and memory, and even protect against age-related cognitive decline.
Wow, brain fertilizer. Now that's something I can get behind.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally, we can't forget about cortisol, the infamous stress hormone.
Right.
While cortisol is essential for our survival, chronic stress can lead to elevated cortisol levels,
which can have a detrimental impact on our physical and mental health.
Right.
Mindfulness practice has been shown to effectively lower cortisol levels, helping us manage stress and build resilience.
So if I'm keeping score here, mindfulness is increasing the good stuff, GABA, serotonin, and BDNF, while decreasing the not-so-good stuff like cortisol.
Exactly.
That's a pretty impressive neurochemical cocktail.
It really is. And you know what's even more fascinating?
Right.
Mindfulness doesn't just impact our individual brains.
No, really.
It can also influence the way our brains interact with others.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of brain synchrony?
Brain synchrony.
Yeah.
That sounds intriguing. Is that like some kind of mind-melding thing?
Not quite mind-melding, but it's pretty close.
Okay.
Brain synchrony refers to the phenomenon where the brainwave patterns of two or more individuals become synchronized during social interaction. And research has shown that mindfulness can actually increase brain synchrony between people during conversations.
Okay, so maybe not mind-melding, but still pretty remarkable.
Yes.
What are the implications of this increased brain synchrony?
Yeah.
Does it mean we understand each other better?
That's what the research suggests.
Wow.
When our brain waves are in sync, it seems to enhance our ability to empathize, to understand each other's perspectives, and to communicate more effectively.
Wow. So mindfulness could actually be a key to building stronger, more connected relationships.
It could.
That's amazing. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the science behind mindfulness.
Sure.
But I want to shift gears for a moment and talk about some of its real-world applications.
Okay.
What are some of the specific ways that mindfulness can improve our lives?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
There's a wealth of research on how mindfulness impacts specific areas of our lives.
Okay.
For example, let's talk about pain management.
Pain management is a huge issue for so many people. How does mindfulness help with that?
There's compelling evidence that mindfulness meditation can be a powerful tool for pain reduction.
Okay.
And what's really interesting is that it works differently than placebos. It's particularly effective at reducing both the intensity and the unpleasantness of pain, regardless of the cause.
So it's not just about distracting yourself from the pain.
Right.
It's actually changing the way your brain processes it.
It is.
That's incredible. What about other areas?
Sure.
I've also heard that mindfulness can be helpful for addiction recovery.
Yes.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Studies have shown promising results with mindfulness training for smoking cessation in particular.
Okay.
It seems to lower brain reactivity to those tempting smoking cues.
Wow.
which can be a game changer when trying to quit.
Yeah.
And this effect is particularly pronounced in women.
Oh, really?
Which is an intriguing find.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what the reason for that difference might be. But let's move on. What about social interactions beyond just that brain synchrony we were talking about?
Right.
Does mindfulness impact other aspects of our relationships?
It does.
Okay.
For instance, research has shown that mindfulness can improve communication skills, reduce conflict, and increase empathy and compassion in relationships.
Okay.
It helps us become more present and attentive listeners, less reactive in our communication, and more understanding of others' perspectives.
This is all so fascinating.
It is.
I'm starting to think of mindfulness as this superpower that can transform so many areas of our lives.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of people hear about mindfulness and think, oh, that's great, but I don't have time for that.
I know.
What would you say to those folks?
I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
But the truth is, even small doses of mindfulness can make a big difference.
Okay.
You don't need to spend hours meditating every day to reap the benefits.
Right.
Even just 5 or 10 minutes a day can have a positive impact.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And for those who are interested in diving deeper into the world of mindfulness, what resources would you recommend?
Well, of course, I have to recommend concentratedwisdom.com.
Absolutely. You'll find all sorts of tools and techniques on concentratedwisdom.com.
Yes.
To help you cultivate mindfulness and accelerate your personal growth.
Exactly.
I encourage everyone to check it out.
Please do.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Sure.
I'm curious to hear a bit more about the different types of mindfulness practices that are out there.
Okay.
Is MBSR the only way to go, or are there other paths to explore?
MBSR is a great option.
Okay.
Especially if you're looking for a structured program
with
lots of research backing it up.
Right.
But there are many other paths to mindfulness as well.
Could you give us some examples?
Of course. Yoga, for instance,
Okay.
is a wonderful way to cultivate mindfulness through movement and breath awareness.
Okay.
There's also diaphragmatic breathing, which involves deep, slow breaths. That can calm the nervous system and reduce stress.
Right.
And then there's guided imagery, where you use your imagination to create peaceful and relaxing scenes in your mind.
Those all sound great.
They are.
Are there any other practices that come to mind?
Sure. We have biofeedback,
Okay.
which uses technology to help you become more aware of your physiological responses.
Okay.
And learn to control them.
Interesting.
And then there are ancient practices like Tai Chi and Qigong, which combine gentle movement, breath work, and mindfulness to promote physical and mental well-being.
Wow, there are so many options.
There are.
And I imagine that different practices might resonate with different people, right?
Exactly. It's all about finding what works best for you.
So if someone is feeling overwhelmed by all these choices,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
I'd encourage them to start simple.
Okay.
Begin with just a few minutes of mindful breathing each day.
Mm-hmm.
Or try a short guided meditation. There are tons of free resources available online and through apps.
Right.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
Try different practices and see what feels most natural and enjoyable for you.
That's great advice. It's not about finding the perfect practice,
Right.
but about finding what resonates with you and fits into your life.
Exactly.
I love that.
Good.
And the most important thing is to be patient with yourself.
Yes.
Mindfulness is a skill that takes time and practice to develop.
It is.
Don't get discouraged if you find your mind wandering or if you don't feel immediate results.
Yeah.
Just keep coming back to the present moment with kindness and curiosity.
Beautifully said.
I love that message. Be patient with yourself. It's a journey, not a destination.
That's right.
Well said.
I think that's a good place to pause for now. What do you think?
I agree. Let's take a break here and come back in part 2.
Okay.
To explore even more about the incredible power of mindfulness.
Sounds good to me. See you soon.
See you in part 2.
Big ideas, small doses, endless impact. You're now listening to Concentrated Wisdom.
Welcome back. I'm excited to continue our deep dive into the world of mindfulness.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm ready to learn even more about how this mindfulness magic can impact our lives.
Before we jump back in,
Okay.
I think it's important to acknowledge that
Yeah.
while mindfulness offers incredible potential, it's not a quick fix or a cure-all.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's important to manage expectations.
Right.
What are some of the things listeners should keep in mind as they explore mindfulness?
Well, first and foremost, it's a practice.
Okay.
Like any skill, it takes time, effort, and consistency to develop. You wouldn't expect to become a concert pianist overnight, right?
Right.
Mindfulness is similar.
That's a great analogy. We need to approach it with patience and persistence.
Exactly. And it's also crucial to find a qualified teacher or guide.
Okay.
Especially if you're diving into a more structured program like MBSR.
Right.
They can provide support guidance and help you navigate any challenges that might arise.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a personal trainer for your mind.
Precisely. They can help you tailor your practice to your specific needs and goals and ensure you're practicing safely and effectively.
And I think it's important to emphasize that mindfulness practices should never be used as a substitute for professional medical
I agree.
or mental health treatment.
I couldn't agree more. If you're struggling with a serious mental health condition, it's essential to seek help from a licensed professional.
Right.
Mindfulness can be a wonderful complementary practice, but it shouldn't replace necessary medical or therapeutic interventions.
Absolutely. It's about integrating mindfulness into a holistic approach to well-being.
Exactly.
Now, shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you were particularly fascinated by the finding that mindfulness can enhance social interactions through brain synchrony.
Yes.
That really blew my mind.
It is fascinating.
What are the practical implications of that? Like, how can we actually use mindfulness to improve our relationships?
That's a fantastic question. It's an area that's ripe for further research.
Okay.
But there are some promising avenues to explore.
I'm all ears.
For example, imagine couples incorporating mindfulness practices into their daily lives.
Okay.
Perhaps they meditate together or simply make a conscious effort to be more present and attentive during conversations.
I love that idea. Just by bringing more mindfulness to their interactions. They could potentially strengthen their bond and deepen their understanding of each other.
Precisely. And this concept could extend to any type of relationship.
Really?
Families.
Okay.
Friendships, even workplace interaction.
It makes me wonder, could mindfulness be the key to creating a more harmonious and connected society?
It's a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is.
While we can't say for certain, the research suggests that cultivating mindfulness on a large scale could have a ripple effect, leading to greater empathy, understanding, and compassion in the world.
Now, that's a world I want to live in. But let's bring it back down to the individual level for a moment.
Okay.
I'm curious, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about mindfulness?
One common misconception is that mindfulness is about emptying your mind.
Okay.
Or stopping your thoughts altogether.
Right.
Which, as we discussed earlier, is not the case.
Yeah.
It's about observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Right.
Not erasing them.
Right. It's about becoming the observer of your mind.
Yes.
Not the dictator.
Exactly.
Another misconception is that mindfulness requires a lot of time and effort.
Right.
While it's true that a dedicated practice like MBSR involves a significant time commitment, you can still experience the benefits of mindfulness.
Absolutely.
With just a few minutes of practice each day.
That's right.
That's reassuring to hear.
Good.
What are some simple ways people can incorporate mindfulness into their daily lives? Without having to completely overhaul their schedules?
There are so many easy ways to weave mindfulness into your day. For example, you could try mindful breathing while you're waiting in line at the grocery store or during your commute.
I like that. Turning those potentially frustrating moments into opportunities for mindfulness.
Exactly. Or you could try a mindful walking meditation.
Okay.
Where you pay attention to the sensations of your feet on the ground and the movement of your body.
That sounds lovely. And I imagine that would be a great way to de-stress after a long day.
Absolutely. You could also try mindful eating.
Okay.
Where you savor each bite of your food, paying attention to the taste, texture, and aroma.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I know I'm definitely guilty of mindless eating sometimes.
We all are.
Yeah.
But by bringing mindfulness to the experience, we can enjoy our food more and even improve our digestion.
So many great ideas. I'm feeling inspired already. But, I think one of the biggest challenges for people is staying consistent with their mindfulness practice.
I agree.
Do you have any tips for helping people make mindfulness a habit?
One of the most effective strategies is to anchor your mindfulness practice to an existing habit. For example, you could commit to doing a few minutes of mindful breathing.
Okay.
After you brush your teeth each morning.
Right.
Or before you go to bed each night.
That's a clever idea.
Huh.
It's like piggybacking on an existing habit.
Exactly.
To make it easier to stick with the new one.
Another tip is to find a mindfulness buddy.
Okay.
Someone who can support you and hold you accountable.
That's a great idea. It's always easier to stick with something.
It is.
When you have someone to share the journey with.
And don't forget to celebrate your successes along the way.
Yes.
Even small victories are worth acknowledging.
That's so important. We need to give ourselves credit for the effort we're putting in.
Yeah.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
It's really inspiring to see how much research has been done on mindfulness.
Yeah.
And how much potential it holds for improving our lives.
It really is.
I completely agree. It's truly remarkable.
Yes.
How such a simple practice can have such profound effects
on
our brains, our bodies, and our relationships.
I agree.
And it's exciting to think about the possibilities that lie ahead as we continue to explore the power of mindfulness.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, before we wrap up this part of our conversation, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners? Any final words of wisdom?
I would just encourage everyone to approach mindfulness with an open mind and a sense of curiosity.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to experiment and find what works best for you. And remember that the journey itself is the reward.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. For this part of our deep dive, we'll be back in part 3 to wrap things up and share some final thoughts.
Looking forward to it.
See you soon. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey exploring the fascinating world of mindfulness and its incredible impact on our brains, bodies, and relationships.
It's been a truly enlightening conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to continue exploring this topic with you.
Me too. You know, as we've been talking, I've been reflecting on my own experiences with mindfulness. I've dabbled in meditation over the years, but I haven't always been consistent.
I think that's a common experience for many people.
Yeah.
Life gets busy and it's easy for mindfulness practice to fall by the wayside.
Exactly. But hearing about all the science-backed benefits has really reignited my motivation. I'm feeling inspired to make mindfulness a more integral part of my life.
That's wonderful to hear. And you know what? One of the beautiful things about mindfulness is that it's always available to us.
Okay.
No matter what's going on in our lives.
Yeah.
We can always come back to the present moment and find a sense of peace.
That's such a powerful reminder. It's like having an inner sanctuary.
Yes.
That we can access anytime, anywhere.
Precisely. And the more we practice mindfulness, the more accessible that sanctuary becomes.
I love that analogy. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the future of mindfulness.
Okay.
Where do you see this field heading in the years to come?
That's a great question. I believe we're just scratching the surface of understanding the full potential of mindfulness. I think we'll see continued research into its applications for a wide range of conditions, from chronic pain and anxiety to addiction and even Alzheimer's disease.
That's exciting to think about.
It is.
And beyond the clinical applications, I imagine we'll also see mindfulness becoming more integrated into mainstream culture.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think we'll see mindfulness practices being incorporated into schools, workplaces, and even government institutions.
Imagine a world where mindfulness is taught to children from a young age.
Right.
That could have a transformative impact on society.
I couldn't agree more. And with the increasing accessibility of mindfulness resources through apps, online courses, and community groups, I think we'll see more and more people embracing this practice and experiencing its benefits.
It's a beautiful vision, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this movement.
Me too.
Towards greater mindfulness and well-being.
It's an honor to share this journey with you.
Yeah.
And with all our listeners.
Well said. And speaking of our listeners, I want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude.
Absolutely.
To each and every one of you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of mindfulness. We hope you found it as fascinating and inspiring as we did.
If you're feeling inspired to accelerate your personal growth and unlock the power of mindfulness within you, we invite you to visit concentratedwisdom.com.
You'll find a wealth of resources, insights, and guidance to support you on your mindfulness journey.
And until next time, remember that the present moment is all we truly have. So breathe deeply, savor this moment, and embrace the power of mindfulness in your life.
Beautifully said. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.
This is the Concentrated Wisdom Podcast signing off. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and don't forget to share the wisdom with someone who needs it.